so much of her, I guess.
Their $5 internet. I was just about to reward him too for his valiant skill using. Well, he'll identify that the language is... Oh, there he is.
It's Charles Chicago.
Problem is I'm losing like half the stream. So this isn't even going to work as a good archive of this. I don't think he's reconnected yet.
I'm here now.
Okay. So Pax had like grabbed down one of the books, and it's written in a language she doesn't understand. But you, however, do. Want to take a guess what language?
What? It's a language I understand.
It is.
I'm going to go with Old Draconic.
It is indeed a book in Old Draconic.
Oh, boy.
There are a large number of research notes here regarding some kind of experimentation on injecting creatures with the blood of other creatures, slightly modifying it using some magical means, and then injecting creatures with other creatures.
Wow. If only I had a character that had direct experience with that. Do I know how my grandfather got his powers? Was that communicated to me?
No, because your grandmother was not really intimately familiar with a lot of that. A lot of that didn't get discovered until shortly before Gimbal had disappeared.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, as a good aligned person, I would imagine I find that this whole thing rather appalling because it's talking about experimenting on sentient beings, correct?
Yes. And it looks like they were going beyond just on people. Notes have them like trying to blend like this kind of like mesh, this kind of magic infused blood into other creatures, and then trying to like pair them off with each other. There's a lot of attempts at them doing a bunch of things, infusing things with magic, maybe severing things up into component pieces and trying to like fuse them into new things, or like magically remove appendages and put them on other things.
You're really trying to make this gross, huh? The centipedes weren't bad enough.
But the weird part in the notes that eventually you start getting to is things start getting out of hand in an unexpected way. The notes kind of get to a point where they've definitely figured out how to fuse like the magic that makes things larger, and they've managed to get it kind of sustainable by blending enlarging magic with like creatures of a certain size, and then they've started kind of like working on extracting like what at the core makes up the magic that makes things larger, and like the strand of internal like biology that makes something inherently larger as well, and have been working to kind of fuse these two things together. At first, the experiment is going well. They're able to like take some pretty like, you know, reasonable things and make them kind of permanently larger, or make like the next step in its chain larger. Until at one point, the notes start getting a little rough to read. Give me a linguistics to try to figure out what this person is writing.
Oh, look, I need to sign back in that. For fuck's sake.
Do you want me to roll it for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Ooh, you got a 20. Good. So
Nice.
you like squint closely and you start trying. Like it's hard when somebody's like handwriting becomes that really awkward style, too fast, too messy, and like sort of cutting off the ends of words here and there.
Uh-huh.
But eventually you can sort of ascertain that once the notes start getting to a certain point, some of the creatures start having other side effects, maybe reproducing a little too rapidly, or maybe something goes wrong in the growth. They seem to be finding in the test that insects are what it works best on. And so one of the first that they run into, let me pull up my notes real quick.
That centipedes work really well as target experiments for this.
Well. The thing is, no. This is the centipedes are kind of an after effect. Hold on, I'm trying to find. I'd found it earlier, and I hadn't switched notes out yet. Hold on one sec. No, I can't find it. Sorry. Wish this would have made it to the right place. There it is. So they started working with like some creatures, but then creatures got kind of mixed up. They thought they were working with one kind of bug, but apparently there was an infestation that had started happening in the building around then. The centipedes were kind of like an after. They were kind of a side effect of another accident that had happened. A number of termites had gotten into one of the serums and inadvertently been consuming it. And over time, they started replicating and growing larger and larger. And they were doing a good enough job dealing with like the termites while they were a certain size. But also as they grew, they noticed that they started to feed on more than just wood. They suddenly started eating stone, and they started eating some kind of metal. As you go through the notes more and more, you'll uncover that part of what they had done to make enlarging the animal or make enlarging insects a much more possible thing is they started using magical creatures that were based on insectile lineages. So they started using things like old Ankeg blood or rust monster blood in order to kind of bind these things together. And so these termites started kind of eating through just about everything. And they thought they had them under control until eventually they came in one day and there was a giant hole in the ground where everything was. Well, a number of the native centipedes had been eating the termites. And over time, they started to develop as well, but they were kind of hidden within the walls. But once they started getting large enough, they started kind of either breaking out of the walls, kind of breaking through the walls, until eventually, like, the whole place became too full of centipedes. And many of them ended up, like, crawling down into the hole below. But by then, they had to abandon all the research and have the place quarantined off.
Is there any
Yuck.
names in this material?
There are a number of pseudonyms. You're pretty sure there's pseudonyms listed here. But you can give me. Do you have any ranks in knowledge history?
No.
Any knowledge nobility?
Nope.
Okay.
Can I roll that?
Yeah, he can read off some of the names, and we can see if you can get any of them.
Okay. Let's see.
You can give me a
Check out
knowledge
these
history and a
names.
knowledge nobility.
Okay.
Okay. From the history check, you'll recognize a couple of these names as very well-renowned arcanists who'd spent a lot of time researching a number of like world-changing things that had really done well for people, especially people that were dealing with a lot of like more troubling financial positions. These researchers had worked a long way using the same sort of stuff that you're hearing Meg talk about to help create cheaper ways to enhance the healing of other people. So they would use like extracts of animals combined with like parts of healing potions to create a more like efficient salves or like other things that would really help people get through illnesses a lot more with a lot less expense happening.
That was the purpose of these experiments?
No, that was some side experiments that they were doing that look like they came out of this research, but that's not related to the crux of this research.
Okay.
So it's like, here's this really awful thing, but they discover something really good that's like better for everyone and profitable to kind of pay for this endeavor. From the knowledge nobility, you don't really know enough about their family line to kind of figure out overall who these people are, though, aside from that. And whether or not they might still have relatives.
Sorry, you said that the side benefit was helping people heal more effectively?
Yeah, so like if somebody had illnesses or injuries, they could use this, they could blend what they found in their research from these creatures along with the magical healing to kind of like take one healing potion and turn it into 5 or 10 that may not happen instantaneously, but might have a over the course of a couple of hours effect instead of over the course of, you know, over them having to heal over the course of days.
Okay.
Intriguing. Well, what do you think, guys? I mean, this is fantastic stuff here. How old is this? Are there any dates on this?
This dates back about 300 years.
Wow.
This has been if you go back to the very earliest dates, the more recent dates end in about the last 25 years. So this place has been abandoned for quite a long time.
A cadre of scientists working on this?
Oh yeah, it's been a long time research project. Like the early notes are very they're very like what do you call it? Disconnected. They're kind of all over the place. They were just like throwing stuff at the wall. You know, they really wanted to figure out how to blend these two things together, but couldn't figure out how. So they were just trying literally anything they could think of until finally they started getting a pattern and then working on that pattern. And it's been people collaborating back and forth. There's no notes on how these people ended up finding each other or how they ended up recruiting new people to the cause, though.
Where they went, like.
Yeah. You do know that the person the group of people at least that were responsible for those healing salves are no longer alive. They died of unknown causes.
Healing salve abuse.
Maybe something
Give
more.
me some of that salve.
Does anybody have any ranks in alchemy?
We don't have useful stuff.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does.
No, it's not even listed on the character sheet.
It's a craft skill.
Sounds like you said a crap skill.
Is that too?
That too. Yeah.
Yeah, it often doesn't have much of a use, but
If you're looking to make some singles, though, you know what I mean. You need to have craft.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Why, did somebody die from that? Is that what the problem is?
Yeah. Hashtag Kobe 2018.
Do with Kobe Bryant.
No, Kobe beef.
No, that too.
Kobe beef.
No, Kobe beef. Kobe beef.
I think he was a rapper.
Kobe beef.
Kobe.
Kurt Kobe.
All right. All right. Well, we have all this apparatus here. We got all this alchemical stuff. What does everybody think? I tell them about what I have ascertained.
I think we should see if we can sell it.
Why don't we see if we can inject some bugs and see what happens?
No. That's a terrible plan.
I know it is, but I still want to suggest it.
No, we should see if we can sell the shit.
I think we should make giant riding ants.
Yes, because nobody else will take and use this shit for that same purpose.
I want a giant centipede army.
My favorite part of this suggestion is let's take these devices here that look like they're clearly for nefarious purposes and let's try to sell them. Which market would you like to sell them on?
I
think the best thing to do is if we sell it is to make everybody who buys it promise not to use it for nefarious purposes.
See, and then we're covered.
Yeah.
Was that how that works?
We're not planning on doing anything nefarious with these potential torture devices.
Why, I would never.
Experiment.
I only want to use it for helping me immunize my felines.
Yeah.
The rabies and the fleas on my felines.
So many bugs are not reaching their maximum potential. Why are we not helping them?
And why don't we keep the stuff and start a church? Let's try that.
Yes. Have you heard the word today about giant insects?
Would you like to learn more? Can I offer you some literature?
I think this is the next religious order, James and myself's next character starting. The Church of Giant Bugs.
So while you're looking at these books, Meg, let me have you give me a. Would this even be? No. Give me a perception check.
Why am I the only one who has to will save against books?
No, Zug had to will save against books as well. He failed, remember? He's reading that super evil book that's trying to turn him into a demon.
It's a shame, you hunker down with a book and next thing you know, it's trying to turn you into a demon. I've been there so many times.
Charles, what library are you going to? Oh yeah, CPS, or not CPS, CPL.
Yeah, nope, CPS, there you go.
That works just as well. Okay. What am I? I can't
perception.
What I'm checking anymore, Steve.
I can hit it for you here.
Come on, open up.
I got it.
This is just ridiculous. Ugh. I got 2.
Oh, I don't have it because I don't have it open in front of me. Oh, nice. So you'll notice that about 30 years ago, there's a gap of about 2 years in the books.
Huh.
And the bugs started writing them.
A Bug's Life, Chapter 1.
Signed, your darling Flick. Huh. There appears to be a 2-year gap. Are the pages torn out, or they just stopped being written?
There are missing books. So there's like a series of books that date up to a certain point, and then it jumps 2 years in terms of books. So there's like about one book every year of experiments.
Huh, we seem to have a gap here.
A gap year.
A gap. Let's go to the gap.
Yeah, it's right there in the center of the room. Big giant gap.
Nice.
Why don't we start backfilling that with concrete?
Yeah, I feel like we should probably get
I'm just saying, might be a thing.
It's fine. There's definitely not any termites or centipedes that are oversized that could come out of there at any point.
Or centimites and
As we're sitting here reading books.
Maybe they'll bring
Explosives
like a muffin
away!
basket. Maybe they'll bring like a muffin basket to welcome us to the neighborhood.
Oh, you guys are the people
There's
who moved into
a
Centipede
couple of your
House.
Make sure to bring a basket of honeydew. So yeah, there appears to be a 2-year gap, and then the writing picks up, or
Yeah. There's like, it almost looks from the writing like a gap never occurred. Like there's not like we're restarting the project this day. There's literally continuing notes in the next year's book. And the
Looks like something we gotta take to Candor.
we could do that.
Sounds time related.
I'm about.
Okay.
Of course, he's probably gonna want to know where we are on that other shit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
You'll probably go
We can-
away until you figure it out. He can't talk. He did talk to us, but you wouldn't understand. So he'll be back later, which is before he got here.
Yeah.
And then we'll all
Well,
wake up.
if
And
we-
then we'll all wake up 3 weeks later. I'm just saying.
3 fun weeks later.
With giant insects ruling
Well,
the town.
Nothing's
Back
cooler
to the
than
hole.
giant termites, right?
Backfill the hole.
Shh. Shh. It's
Hmm.
fine.
Just saying.
It's fine. Don't worry about filling the hole.
Let's get some Vinnies in here now.
I'm
Backfill-
for that.
Let's
Yeah.
backfill it with Vinnies.
I'm not for that.
I agree that we
We're
need
not
to
hurting them.
let's get it filled up.
Give them someplace to live.
Is there any way I can research the history of this building? Do they have like public records? on this
You
kind of thing?
you can go back to the Ministry of Trade. And they do
Ministry
keep
of Trade.
records of like what's been owned by whom. You could also try to go back to like the head of House Blade. But odds are, like, not being a Blade family member, they're not going to let you in the door to look at records there.
Go to the House Ministry of Truth, too.
No, that's a different place. Just like the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Okay, so we can do that, but we need to establish ownership, right? That's probably something we should do
Yes,
first.
that
So,
is something that you should do first.
So what I've forgotten? We just needed to clear this place out, and then we could pay him. Was it 1,000 and it was ours?
It was 5,000 because it's normally worth 10 because of how much space is there.
All right. Do we feel we've cleared up the bugs enough to make this place safe to live in, quote unquote?
I think
Till this
Living
hole
in.
is filled in, I wouldn't call it safe to live in.
Yeah, there does have to be somebody somebody has to come by and approve it for business use.
Well, first let's get the Vinnies to fill the hole.
Okay.
I mean, that's clearly the case. And
or whatever they're called in this. What territory are we in?
You're in Blade territory, so yeah. They are Vinnies.
Okay.
they're Vinny Barbarinos.
So we get Vinny's to fill in the hole.
So yeah, the current owner will actually get the Vinnies to fill in the hole and call it part of you guys paying for things.
Okay.
The question I want to know is, are you paying the Vinnies anything extra for filling in the hole?
Why?
They can look at all the centipede they could eat.
Just asking. Are you paying the Vinnies anything
Why
extra
are
to
you
fill in the hole?
asking?
Yeah, I think we should pay the Vinnies.
I am bribing the Vinnies to.
There we go.
I am bribing the Vinnies to just keep our construction efforts quiet
Okay.
because I don't want them sneaking.
I think we should bribe them through the group fund.
Okay. How much?
How many are there?
There are going to be about 10 guys on this project.
What's a reasonable Vinny bribe?
You give me a knowledge.
Vinny bribe.
Vinnies.
Give me a knowledge local.
Okay.
Knowledge Vinny.
Come on, roll 20. Stop freezing.
See, I got no problem bribing Vinnies. Notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Little moral gray area there.
Yeah, they're not necessarily all evil, right? All right, so like Vinnies don't exactly have a lot of money, so slipping a Vinny like a couple of gold pieces is usually enough to keep their silence.
So how about like 5 gold each?
Okay, so I'll take 50 out of the party fund. Party fund.
So we're just gonna be like, yeah, thanks for your good work. You know,
Yeah.
here's a couple extra for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
For your discretion.
if we tell them to keep it on the down low, will it be her? Yeah. We
Yep.
appreciate your discretion.
They
We don't want
will.
the competition to get ahead of us.
They will agree entirely, and they will keep it to themselves.
Excellent.
Once they finish that up, that's going to take a couple of days. So we'll have that finished by about the 15th. And then you guys can pay for the building.
Excellent.
There's somebody who will end up coming out to take a look at the place. They'll determine whether or not the construction was good enough. So let me take a quick look here. Yes. So yeah, and it will be deemed a serviceable business environment. And that will happen probably about the 17th. So in the meantime, you guys can have done any performances, any research you want to do, or picked up any items you might have wanted to buy.
Wait, did we open the winery? Because I thought that was happening.
The winery already happened on the 13th. That's already been
okay.
opened. Your business manager's taking care of that.
We just didn't talk about it actually being open, so I wasn't sure.
No, we're getting the secondary address we need.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
We've got so many irons in the fire right now.
So is there anything you guys wanted to pick up over the last 4 days?
Well, I wanted to research this building.
Okay.
You know.
Let's see. Let me take a look at your char. I think you're probably going to need help with it unless you've got ranks in knowledge local.
Nope.
Okay. So there are 2 members of the party with knowledge local, or 3 members of the party with knowledge local. Which of them would you like to choose to have help you?
I'm gonna call on Pax.
Okay. So let me have both of you give me a knowledge local.
but I will provide snacks.
That helps. You said local, right?
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
Can you roll for me again, Steve?
I will. 1 sec. Okay. So that is an excellent roll altogether. So this takes a bit of time because this is not the previous building owners are a business. Then you look up that business, and that business is owned by a couple of different businesses. And those businesses are owned by a couple of other businesses who are owned by a couple of other businesses. And eventually you will get to you'll get through a number of these links in the chain, businesses that kind of like seem to have no owner connected to them, businesses that are owned by other businesses in the chain itself. So like you'll find this business and it's owned by this business, and then 3 other businesses connected to one other business that already owns this business also own this business. So really it's like a single owner, or it's like this business owns it but through all these other companies. There's a lot of interconnectivity here that happens, but eventually going through enough of these businesses, you will make your way to one single business that is owned by the names of 3 people. Give me 1 sec, and I need to try to recall this information here.
Do you know what year they owned it?
This was this is from the initial point of starting. So this is around 300 years ago. This was before the dominance of the familial structure. So there are still people that have other last names. I need to find one of them, and I know I have it in one of my notes here. I just don't remember where. I don't know if I actually put down his name, though. I did not. Okay. Let me give this guy a name, because this is actually a cross-game note. This dude is... And... Let's do it again. So I need a... Is that on both? Yeah. Don't like those. Sorry, I just need to find one that fits. Cadwell Perry. P-A-R-R-Y.
Perry, huh?
Or I'm sorry, Cadell Perry.
I thought you said there were 3 names.
That's the first one. This one I need to make sure I have very specific. The second one. This is what I want. No. The second one is Aura Sounds Meadow Dropper.
That one sounds fun.
Totally.
With that name, I'm gonna need Charles to give me an int check. I need Meg to give me an int check. I'll roll it for you.
Probably
Yeah.
need you. Yeah.
Meg, that name sounds familiar to you, but you're not sure exactly why.
Oh, cool.
And the last one. Come on, there it is. The last one is Finbar McKinney.
Finbar, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a name.
I just put those in the wrong campaign notes, though.
Did I find anything exciting about any of those guys?
So that's going to require a knowledge nobility check while you're here looking
Oh.
through the notes. So I'll see if you can assist.
Should I be rolling?
Yes, you should be primarily rolling it. Wow. Okay. So you will very quickly discover why Meg recognizes that name. Orasound's Meadow Dropper is the mother of Meg's mother.
With Meg's grandmother.
Or, I'm sorry, no, it's the mother of Meg's grandmother. I misspoke.
So Meg's great-grandmother.
Yes. Well, I didn't want to just say it that way, because that could go on either side. And I think Meg just crashed.
Meg.
Back, Meg.
Cadell Perry is also known as the Acerbic Arcanist. He was
What? Acerbic?
Acerbic
Arcanist?
Arcanist.
What does that mean?
He was a wizard, a very powerful wizard that was kind of like devoted to kind of like chemicals and foods and like anything that sort of had to do with like things that were kind of bitter in flavor or bitter in spell.
Side note, I just learned I am reaching the limit of Google Keep Notes because it's like, hey, you only have 490 characters left. Move to Google Docs. Oh, man.
Keep has a notes limit?
Yes.
I'm kind of glad I'm trying to transition to Evernote then. So that would suck. And then lastly, Finbar McKinney is a former dwarf who was of House Rurik, or at
How
least
do you be
worked.
a former dwarf?
Well, sorry, a former forge hand from the Great Dwarven Forge in House Rurik. Great former smith. Sorry, not forge hand. He was thrown out of the forge because his interests in creativity were unorthodox for what the rest of the dwarves wanted, compared to what the rest of the dwarves wanted to work on manufacturing. He would take on projects from people that House Rurik would not normally allow. Like, people would come in and they would say, like, I have this really odd thing I want to make. And they would be declined by most of the dwarves, but you could always, like, find Finbar at some point, and he would be willing to work on that project. After enough time of this, the dwarves kind of started realizing that these projects that were being completed under their name were starting to create a number of problems, and they discovered it was him and threw him out of the forge.
Okay.
There's not a lot of info on who Akunsaunt is. Welcome back, Meg.
I'm glad to be here.
So Akunsaunt's Meadow Dropper is your great-grandmother on your mother's side.
Somebody else is coming back in.
No, that's my Hangouts.
So my great-grandmother is Akunsaunt's Meadow Dropper.
Akunsaunt's Meadow Dropper.
Oh.
A relation to Akunsaunt's acid dropper.
I'm flying through the purple haze through my brain.
Let's go ahead and take a really short break, and hopefully some of this Discord stuff will fix as well, or this Twitch stuff will fix as well. Be back in a moment.
Okay.